zoom, 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 zoom. Just got off the flight, literally just got off the flight, jumped in the truck, went to the hardware store, came here. I had some hummus and some peppers, and we're outside working on the car already, so it's been here like 30 minutes maybe. We got some beers in the freezer, beers in the fridge, and we're getting to work on it already. Just a few things I wanted to nail down as soon as possible, tune related stuff. I wanted to give you guys a walk around of the car. There are currently no viewers, so I'll have to do it again in a minute, probably. Let's see, am I on the Wi-Fi? It says I am. All right, good. Flip this camera around. Check out that sexy finger. All right. Can I zoom this thing out?
Hey, can I have a 9/16?
Nope.
Maybe I have one.
You want a wrench or a
Socket.
socket? Right here in my hand. It's only long. Do you need a short one?
No, long is good.
Okay.
Might even be.
Okay.
I'm going up over the.
3 blow-off valves. So, no, wastegate, blow-off valve, wastegate. So 2 wastegates and a blow-off valve. 44s. So those 2 44s. So one thing that people get wrong is they get wastegate sizing wrong, and they immediately think the bigger the turbo, the bigger the gate needs to be, and that's really not the truth at all.
Actually, you need a 5/8, which I have, so.
Okay.
I'm good.
It's more about how much bypass flow do you need, and that's more about boost than it is just straight turbo size. So there's going to be a relationship between the turbo size and the wastegate for sure, but it's more like ratio between flow rate and flow rate, like what this is capable of flowing, or what the displacement is of the engine versus how much boost you're going to put at it, and then versus what the boost is going to be. So the lower the boost, the bigger the gate is pretty much how it is. So if this car was going to be a 40 PSI monster, we just have little 38s on it. But it's not. It's going to be down around a bar and a half, which in caveman terms is like 14.7 PSI to 21 or so PSI.
In caveman terms.
Caveman units. Yeah, I'm sorry. My bad. I even said it wrong. So because of that, and then we have 1,900 horsepower worth of turbo here, and we're only looking to make 13 or so of the engine. We're bypassing a lot of flow, so we need bigger gates to do that. The idea is to make as much reliable power as we can, so that we can do as many passes as possible before you got to put new rings in it.
If we need 13, I'll be shocked.
13 what?
100 horsepower.
Oh, you won't need 13 horsepower. But at the crank, you're going to easily make that shit. That's going to be no problem. So let's do a little walk around. It is a 6-liter block, LQ, 6-liter block. And it's D-stroked with a 4.8 crank. And then it's got forged long rods in it, 6.3s?
6.3.
6.3 rods in it, and then custom pistons for it. And I think we're at what? Almost 10 to 1?
10-2.
10-2.
10-2.
You were able to get 10-2 out of this thing? That's
Yeah.
crazy to think about that with a short stroke and all that. So 10-2, a little on the high side, but we need the torque. We need the torque to pull through the converter because these turbos are big and they're going to be a little bit on the lazy side. So we need the engine torque to get up on the converter to help get the RPM up so that the turbos can become more active, so they get us up on the converter more, to get the turbos more active, to get us on the converter more. You guys, right? See where I'm going with that? So the higher compression ratio gives us the higher torque that we need to do that. In theory, again, that's in theory. We got a lot of HP with the turbo here, so I'm worried that it's too much turbo for the converter, or too big a housing, I should say, for the converter. That's my only fear, but we're gonna find out. And the way I have it set up in the ECM, when he bumps in, I have a timing retard happening for two reasons. One, because that lowers engine torque and provides some relief to the trans brake when you're cycling it on and off. So that's really nice, right? Save some converter stuff. But two, that retard in timing will help get the turbos a little more spoolie, a little more heat will go into the exhaust and get to the turbo. So he can press that button, pull some. Oh, they're cold already?
Yeah.
Fuck yes. Can I drink beer on stream? I don't know. I'm gonna drink it. Glub, 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 glub. All right.
Saunders is out here.
Thank you.
All right. So I got timing retard built in there. So hopefully, as he bumps in, even though the torque will drop a little bit, since the trans is releasing a smidge, then hopefully the RPMs don't drop too much, and that allows the retarded timing. So let's make sure heat in the exhaust, help push some turbos up a little bit, so you get more action on those things. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. If it turns out in the long run that it's just too laggy, then we'll get a smaller housing for the turbos, for the turbine side of them. Get a smaller housing, it'll bolt right in, just a smaller AR, and then I guess more response, but it reduces the top end horsepower capacity, but increases response. So
Later on we could put it out in the driveway and put it on the trans brake and bump in.
we should absolutely. That's part of the testing I want to do. So we definitely do all that. Accidentally do a burnout. Accidentally do a burnout.
This water goes out here.
Yeah, who spilled this Dawn dish soap in the driveway? So anyways, I do a walk around on the car. Viewership keeps popping up and down, so it makes me wonder if I have a bad connection or something. Anyway, so it's a 69 to 70-ish Nova. It's a fiberglass front end, so it's whatever they wanted it to be. I wish I could zoom out, but I won't zoom out with this camera. So the D-stroke 6 liter, relatively high compression from the boost we're going to throw at it. Let's run an ethanol, so we're good there. We got injectors. Which ones were these?
1300X.
1300s. So we have the ID 1300s because that's a great fucking injector. Which means we'll probably run out of injector long before we run out of turbo. But for our horsepower goals, 8 1300s is going to be great. Two Borg Warners. These are the S3. Were these the 369s? Do you remember, Sean?
I don't remember.
I think they're 369s with the 9180 compressor wheel in it. Journal bearing, of course. Turbo speed sensors. I get 2 turbo speed sensors going in for data, so we can make sure that they're running about the same RPM. If they're not, then I can, look into, is the wastegate messing up? Do you have an exhaust leak? Do I have something going on, right? So the 2 turbo speed sensors is really, I think, important data for us, since we don't have a balance tube between the exhausts, right? There's no balance tube for pressure. So if one of them starts running a lot higher RPM than the other one, then we know that either the wastegates aren't opening the same amount, or we have a restriction somewhere. Not that I could see that being a restriction, because it literally goes like this, out the car. So you put air in here, and you put fuel in here, and you get flames out here. It's a really expensive flamethrower, but it's a fun one. We got wide bands post-turbo. Hopefully a long enough pipe to here. I shouldn't have much oxygen contamination from the outside at low RPMs. I'm pretty sure it's enough pipe with enough turn that it'll be all right. Both sides, both banks. He's got a vacuum pump. Keep the rings sealed nicely. Keep the post-combustion gases out of the crankcase. That should be really handy. It's great when you put them in the right direction too. Electric water pump, less parasitic losses. Alternator, because boom, we need an alternator. I mean, you technically don't need one. You could run a higher voltage battery and that kind of shit, but I don't know.
A lot of electrical load on this car.
Yeah, a lot of shit, and just trying to run all off battery would be silly. I think you would add so much weight in battery to be way more than the freaking alternator and everything, and with all the electrical load, it just doesn't make sense. I mean, we have 100 and what are these? 110 millijoule freaking coil packs. I think that's what they are. 105, 110, something like that. So they're more than double what like an R35 GTR coil. Everyone runs the R35 GTR coil because it's really strong, but it's 53, I think, millijoules or 51 millijoules, and these are like 105 or 110 or something like that. So that's twice the ignition power than the highest rated coil on any production car. Nick asks, so the vacuum pump does the same thing as PCV but without the rerouting to the turbo inlets. That's correct. This right here is actually a relief valve, and this controls the amount of suction in or vacuum in the crankcase. If the vacuum becomes too great, then this will allow some air to come in. It's not filtered, you know, but it's also track and not like a daily driver and stuff. In the future, I could see us adding a filter system to this, no problem. Not a big deal to do so if we found that our oil is getting too dirty too fast or something. But yeah, so we got these 8 of these gigantic coils on here, 8 1300cc injectors, and then we've got a bunch of electronics. Yeah, Nick, vacuum pumps have been around for fucking decades, man. It's super common.
Even I mean, if you're drag racing, like every NA car you see that's decent is gonna have one.
Yeah, pretty much everyone's gonna run a vacuum pump. This one, I mean, it's been around for so long. This one's a V-band or V-belt.
I've watched engines on the dyno, not rear wheel, pick up 20 horsepower from a vacuum pump.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. At the crank, you definitely pick up some power. So you do 2 things with a vacuum pump. One, you get rid of all this post-combustion gases, right? You don't want that shit in the engine anyways. It pollutes the oil. It makes it more acidic. It does a bunch of shit like that. Well, race car guys change oil frequently enough. That's not really as big of a concern. The other one is ring seal. Ring seal is great. Put a little extra suction in the crankcase, and the differential pressure across the ring is greater, right? Cylinder pressure over crankcase pressure is the ratio that provides you your ring seal. How much force is there pushing on those rings, pushing them against the cylinder walls? More ring seal means less blow-by. Less blow-by means less of the shit in the first place. So it's kind of cool because by removing the blow-by and increasing and producing the vacuum in the crankcase, you reduce the blow-by. Right? It's kind of a cool, like, you know, it's like a circle of life. But and the other thing is windage. By reducing the pressure in the crankcase, you have less molecules in the crankcase. That's less things for the crankshaft to bang into, right? It's banging into all those molecules. My hand is banging into molecules in the air right now. Luckily, it's not very dense in here, and I'm not, you know, this isn't a very fast-moving hand, so I don't have a lot of friction. But the crankshaft is spinning thousands of RPM, and you have windage losses from that. Also, the pistons, when they move up and down the bore, they have... yeah. I'm not sure if you mean the camera or me or the videos. I'm not sure, but either way, that's funny. But the pistons, when they move up and down in the bore, they have to displace air. And if you look at the way a piston moves through an engine, if you look at its location versus degrees, and you look at speed, it doesn't move up the same way it moves down. Because the crankshaft is here and the rod swings around this crankshaft and the piston goes up and down, this motion does not create a fixed sine wave with the exact same shape at the top and bottom of the curve. I don't know how to say this. It's not a symmetrical sine wave, is what I'm trying to say. And so what that means is that at some points, you're actually compressing air with the piston. So it comes down, one piston's moving down faster than another one's moving up. And so you squish air. And if you remove the air that's in there, there's less to squish. So you gain horsepower from that as well.
I honestly think that's where the big gain, that and sealing the rings, but I think that's in some ways a bigger gain at higher RPM.
Yeah, well, windage is a big fucker too. Like,
That's what we got to be careful with this guy too, because I don't have a dry sump system, so we can only pull about 14 inches with it, and then you start to starve oil from places.
yeah, I mean, even with the dry sump, you still starve oil from places over 14 inches. That's kind of a, as long as we don't pump oil out of the crankcase and starve the engine because there's no oil in the crankcase, then that'd be really bad. But yeah, wrist pins start to get dry. That's a source. So this is an old iron block, so it doesn't have the piston oil squirters like the LS9, the LS6, or the LSX. I think LSX blocks come with oil squirters. I don't know if the Dart LS Next blocks come with oil squirters or not, but
I think they do.
that's good because I want oil squirters and everything. Oil squirters are great, and oil squirters mean you can run high vacuum in the crankcase and not dry out the wrist pins of the cylinder walls. Because right now everything relies on splash lubrication and vapor. Oil is vaporized, and oil droplets are suspended in the air inside the crankcase. And the pistons go up and down. Those oil droplets bang into stuff, and that provides you lubrication. You go sucking all that out and not having any atmosphere for the oil droplets to suspend themselves in, right? If the density of the air drops so much inside there and there's so few molecules and nothing's going to pick the weight up of those molecules. They're not going to be suspended, not going to be floating around in there. They're going to fall and plate out and get taken out of the engine. So you need to have squirters to squirt oil and get oil on things so that you're not relying on the splash and the suspension of oil vapor in there to lubricate. So we want wrist pins to go dry. All right.
They won't be dry for long.
Till it breaks. Yeah. So fuel pressure regulator, fuel pressure. I got fuel pressure sensor coming in. That's more of just a protective function and for logging. Make sure you have enough pump and everything's working good, working correctly. The injector scaling is adjusted based on fuel pressure. It is a boost reference fuel pressure regulator. You are correct, Nick. It is not a 4, it's an aeromotive. And trust me, it would have a 4 if they were available at the time. But also, this is the big aeromotive. So you see this one is really tall, and that's important. This actually is one of the better aeromotives because it's got the long spring. I know you and I talked about how the spring length is important, and this also has the big seating. It's got the 313 disc in it. So it's 0.313 inches diameter ball in it. So it's got a big ball in it so it can bypass a lot of flow. It's got a long spring, so it's a much more linear rate as pressure and flow rate changes than the smaller 13109 regulator that so many people use. This is a much better regulator than the 13109. The 13109 is just a standard fuel injection. A lot of people put on their cars, and it works fine for the most part, but you will have more of a non-linear fuel pressure curve with flow and boost than you would with something like this. I'm also showing off my nails to cut them before stream. See that? Last time I did this car, I'd been here for like a week. And so I was like, ew, your nails are gross. I'm like, dude, I'm fucking away from home for a week. Leave me alone. But so I cut them nice and short before I came. That way by 8 days, you know, I won't look like Wolverine. So what we did on this car is we put 2 radiators in it. They're CSF radiators. One was just not quite enough. It was close, but the temperature would creep. And this one here, so we got 2 of the same radiators on the side, and eventually we're going to plumb little ducts to help them breathe a little better when the hood and everything is on. Why is the boost control so far from the solenoids? Or the solenoid so far from the... Well, it's more about location. It would be better to have it closer, you know? Yeah. Well, when you work on greasy shit, you get stuff under them. Paul, thanks, Dick. No, I was just kidding. Yeah, it'd be better if it was closer. We could definitely do that at some point. But the boost here is going to be very, I'm going to say relatively static. It's on an automatic transmission. It doesn't have various boost set points based on throttle position. It's not like boost response is going to matter a bunch. You know, like we're going to hit the go pedal. Things are going to start flowing. This is going to open up. It's going to go rah, rah, rah. It's going to have, you know, just, it's not going to have to do a whole lot of stuff. Like, I mean, in this situation, we could have run any brand of wastegate technically, and it would have worked because we're not asking to have all these run boost settings. We're gonna have a couple. We're gonna have a couple on a switch inside that's gonna give us a couple settings. We're gonna have his within regulations power mode because the cage is only certified to be so fast, and then we're gonna have a kill mode, like let's get kicked off the track once and see how fucking fast it goes mode.
Yep.
So we're gonna have that, and so it's
7:30.
what?
I said I predict 7:30s.
Oh, in the eighth?
No, in the quarter.
Oh.
Not the eighth. Shit.
I was confused. I was really confused.
It didn't need turbos to go 7:30.
So really, like, we could have put a fucking precision gate on here for that kind of thing. If it was just one set point, because those things will do fine at one set point. Or even shit fuck Turbo Smart that is absolutely junk trash. That even work in a drag racing setup, because any gate can hold one boost pressure. You can make them work to handle boost pressure. But the tiles are really the only gate that gets the job done at various pressures and behaves very consistently. You add so many percent and you get so much boost back out of it. Within the certain efficiency range of the turbo, then obviously the turbo starts to reach the end of its range. You need to add more duty cycle to get more boost out of it. That's just because the exhaust pressure is going to start to avalanche or exponentially increase. I saw a question. Let me go back. The intake Y pipe seems a little small right before the throttle. It does neck down a little bit right here, but that's not going to be an issue. I mean, we're going to be feeding plenty of HPs through these guys right here.
That's the ugliest piece of shit on this car.
Sean is not proud of it. He didn't make it completely. Like this Y section, we were looking for something that went 2.5 to 4. And he goes, oh, here's one online. Here's a dual 2.5 to 4. We'll buy that shit. And when he got it, it had this weird pinchy part in it, which isn't the greatest. But I mean, we're going to be force feeding a lot of boost, in this thing. So it isn't an NA engine. The engine's not going to be sucking through a small hole, right? This engine will not do any sucking except at idle. Other than that, it's going to be force fed. So, like my honeymoon. I don't think it's going to be that big of a problem. But yeah, so you will see that some of these are machine welds from the product manufacturer, and some of these are Sean welds. And for the most part, Sean learned to weld while building this project, right?
TIG weld, yeah.
Yeah, I learned to TIG weld building this. So, he's got some boogers here and there.
Yep.
But it's what he learned to weld on. In fact, this pipe looks better than this one, right? Because this was the first one he did with all the pipe cuts and everything, and this one looks better. So he's getting better, like every welder should, and he'll go back. He wants to redo this white pipe. He doesn't like it either, so he wants to redo that, and eventually he's going to redo a few of the pipes just to beautify them, or in this case, optimize it a little more. I have some ideas, but with what we had available to us at the time, this is what he got. So
the problem is we want to go racing.
Yeah.
And if it works, I'm not fucking with it.
Right. Yeah, we want to race the fucking thing. We want to make power and have a good time. Yeah. And then in the winter, he can go by and say, I want this because it's right here in the front of the car and he's seen a lot to be prettier. He can work on pretty shit. But right now, it's a factor of let's go fast. So that's what we did. That's what he did on it. Let's see, what else? Dual widebands by Haltech. He made the brake system for the car. He bent all the lines. He replaced all the front suspension is different from when I was here last. He was given some coilovers, and they didn't fit, and then the car sat funny, and then he realized how many things were fucked up with the suspension. So he bought all new control arms, upper and lower, different spindles, different brakes. Got a new rack because he went to adjust the toe on it and found that the dude had welded this shit to the rack. So do that. Did a little roll center correction, or a bump steer correction, because he had a fucking mountain of bump steer. It was so bad. I was like, hey dude, you see how that arm is like really crazy angle? How much is your toe change when you put the car up and down? He's like, I don't know. He looked at it. He's like, holy shit. It's like, it was like, it was like parallel parking. So he'd hit a bump and this thing would go, boom, right?
Well, more importantly, a wheelie.
Yeah. Oh, and it contacts the ground. Yeah, that'd be shitty, right? You do a wheelie, it changes. You come down with the ground uneven, like you come down not square, and one comes down first and the car goes one way and the other comes down, they fight. Yeah, that'd be scary as shit. So we got some books out, and he got the geometry fixed on him. It's almost parallel with that lower arm. It's really nice. So he's got that significantly better. But there's a suspension guy coming tomorrow, and he's going to probably look at that too when he does other stuff, and help and measure and see what kind of bump steer we get out of it. So that'll be good that we can then adjust if we need to those rod ends. Also, the other ones, they weren't pivoting; they were just like hard bolted. So all this friction and shit against the knuckle and stuff, it was really weird. The other guy did some really hooky shit. So this got nice new suspension, coilovers. We went through the spring catalog from iBach, and I found this. He told me how much weight he had on the corner, how much droop he had with the little spring rate, and then I got him a list of spring rates that would work and what he would have to do to make it work. And so we chose one that was a good middle ground, and then he put them on, and it was almost like tits. He said make a few adjustments, and everything's good. So he's got the right spring rates in the front now. Car's got just the right amount of droop. See now he has Wilwoods in it. He had the aerospace engineering ones we had before.
Yeah, that's what's still on the back.
On the back.
But wheelwood's on the front.
Gotcha. So the dual Borg is up front.
This my beer here?
That is your beer, yes.
Sweet.
The one that's full still. I mean, I only drank out of both of them a little bit, but.
That's alright.
So the cockpit view here, he's got the BTI screen, BT Innovations, I believe. I use a lot of his CAN-based gauge stuff. I like it. It's a good price point. It's got great functionality. And when Brandon is not completely swamped, he's pretty good at answering emails and stuff. Or doing things. If you need some custom stuff done, he's pretty good with that. Whereas other gauge manufacturers won't ever even like return an email. So that's his screen. He's got his shifter in here. He's got his buttons. So which one's which?
Trans brake's the big button on the right.
The button's trans brake,
on the left.
and that's bump on the left. Now what are the ones on the knob? Anything on the knob?
Line lock is the top one on the shifter.
Uh-huh.
The other one's nothing.
So line lock on the top. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Which one gets you a beer?
The beer
Yeah.
happens when I pull the chute.
Gotcha. Okay. That's our trim knob. We're gonna put more in, but Haltech was out of the 2s and 3 pot screen with all the different color dingwappetses. So I said, fuck it, we'll do one for now. So that's a trim switch. You can set different modes based on the position of that switch. So I can, what we'll probably end up doing is just having the one for now and putting a cheat sheet on top of that little stickum sheet that tells them what they all are, so we can look at it and say mode 4 is burnout mode, mode 5 is whatever. So like the burnout mode will be a much lower boost than the other ones because you don't need 600 horsepower to do a fucking burnout, right? There's Haltech, relay box, fuse box, power distribution, the big gauge stuff, the small load stuff, ground. That is the relay for the trans brake and the bump relay. So when you hit
state relays the trans brake.
when you hit this button here, then the ECU tells this to go off and then back on again for whatever period of time I set it to. So we're practicing that today too, seeing how long it needs to be to actually function correctly for me to bump in a reasonable amount. And then
That's
that
the one I
relay is
put
for the
in.
start relay,
Yep.
just to run the starter. And that's the expansion box from the Haltech. So I love the Haltech stuff. The Elite, before they came out with the R5, the 2500T was their highest one. This is the 2500 non-T. But regardless whether it's T or regular, they don't have any more inputs. That's the most inputs they have. There's only 2 plugs there, right? And so you can see that, or you can imagine there's a limitation to how much stuff you can feed in or out of the ECU. And so the biggest limitation of the Haltech 2500 is the lack of inputs and outputs compared to some of the other makes out there. Whereas like the M-Tron has 4 plugs across it and has 2 onboard lambdas. It has freaking inputs and outputs for days, digital, analog. You can run, a lot of stuff on it. So like the KV8 is made for 8 cylinders, the KV12 maybe 12 cylinders. So that many inputs or that many outputs and stuff. But so because the 2500 is limited in inputs and outputs, they have this expansion box, and it communicates via CAN bus, and it's not connected right now because I have to tell this guy that this is hooked up to it and get the input set up before we turn it on in case something's goofed up. So that's what I'm going to do here in a few minutes. So this expansion box has more inputs and outputs on it. Communicates via CAN, which is very high frequency, 1,000 hertz typically. Some bus speeds are higher, some are lower, but I think these need 1,000 hertz. So you can run inputs and outputs off of this. Now, that's great, but if you start having collisions on the CAN bus, then problems can arise. So what I did is I put all the essential engine sensors that control engine operation off of this one, and then data acquisition or other outputs and stuff that aren't like vital to the engine are on this one. So if there is a CAN issue, we're not going to melt an engine down, right? So we don't want that. So nothing that I have compensations for will come off this box. It'll all be directly to the Holotech. And, you know, that's potentially overkill, but if I have enough room to do that and be safer, then why not, right? So that's what I'll be doing here. I'll be setting this up inside of the software for that, and I'll show you guys that when I get to it here in a second. So I finish the walk around with the car. Old school freaking switch panel, but it works. We got the cooling, we got the gauges and lambda sensors, we got the main power and the start on the box there, so you can reach up, do his thing. The stop having fun switch is up here, this handle. You push that forward and the car slows down.
Yeah, rapidly.
Yeah.
Don't push it, the chute's packed.
Is it?
Yeah.
I'm not gonna push it.
Yeah.
Does it spring out?
No, it's pretty uneventful without the car moving.
Is it? I have no idea how far it goes.
Out on the floor.
Just falls down.
Little drogue, the pilot chute.
Obviously, the interior cage and all that shit's in here. It's a big tire car, as they say. It's got a lot of meat back here.
32 by 14 by 50.
32 tall?
Yeah.
By 14 wide?
Yeah.
By 15-inch wheel. Yep, that's pretty wide. And then your rear suspension you had all redone. With the rear end and everything, you had that all redone last year? Earlier this year?
Last year.
Trans cooler, fuel tank, fuel pump, and a filter are all back here. 4-link stuff. There's no sway bar back here yet, though, so we're working on that. We may or may not get that figured out.
Don't need one.
What?
Don't need one.
Don't need one?
Uh-uh.
How come?
He said I don't need one.
I thought he said he needed one.
Well, he said they're nice, but...
Recommended. Yeah, you don't need it to
recommended.
race it, but it'd be a good idea with this much twisties.
These fucking bolts won't work.
We're going to do it. Not this trip, but we're going to do it. Because
Yeah.
after this trip, he's going to be like, holy shit, we should do it. Someone's like, yeah. This thing really leaves kind of sideways.
Son of a bitch.
I mean, people have called it that before.
I just don't have the part in the right hardware.
Wheelie bars. Help keep the front end down. Nest of wires. Most of that's the expansion harness, right? Oh yeah, I see it.
An awful lot of it.
Yeah. Which is weird, excited. Everything is signed, so it's able to figure out what stuff's not hooked up yet. All right, let me get my laptop. Where's the cable?
Right there.
Oh, I see it. All right. Pull the little cover plate out. So this comes out, bloop, and then you can plug this guy in. But you can also plug this guy in. So that's going to be out from now on probably because this is going to go into here. There you go. I should probably show you what I'm talking about. This cam thing plugs into that. You technically can use any of the CAN ports. You can use the one that's in the harness, or you can use this one to feed the CAN for that. What you have to know is if you're doing CAN bus stuff, is that some products communicate at different rates. And if you put different communicating rate products on the same CAN bus, you can start having collisions and errors and that kind of stuff. And since this one is kind of important, because of all the stuff that's in it, it's going to go on its own dedicated CAN bus 2, instead of CAN bus 1. And so it'll have its own communication path, will not be subject to any collisions or errors associated with anything else that's on is talking to the ECU. All right. My Lenovo. Oof. Oh man, getting old. Squatting down, just sitting down gets hard sometimes.
Gotta go back.
Back to what? The hardware store?
Yeah.
Oh no.
I don't have the right hardware for that. Because of the way he designed that bracket, you gotta have a socket head. Stupid way to design.
But
and unnecessary.
But you got the right a screw through there now?
Yeah.
A bolt that fits and works?
Yes.
Did you have to use a chaser or tap or anything?
I just ran it in from the top on both of them.
Badass. Sweet. Could you do me a favor and give me some juice?
Yeah.
I need power to the ECU.
It would help, wouldn't it?
I mean, a smidge. Steam for gamer nerds. It's a nice glare. That's fucking badass. Let's try and get this perfect in the middle. There you go. Now you can see the password. All right, let's open Haltech software up. Haltech ESP.
So you want it all the way on, right?
Yep, I seen power to the ECM. Turn sideways some. All right.
Big ass fuel pump.
Hit the connect. Yeah. Hopefully it's enough pump. So hopefully it's enough pump. Is your throttle body moving?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the throttle body's trying to idle the car.
ECU connected. Mm. As you see, as it reads, more and more stuff starts popping up. Starts to populate the tables. And then you start seeing how many freaking compensations I have in here. Maybe too much. I don't know.
Could push the out, but
Let's see. Paul says agreed. LOL. I'm missing some comments here. Is there an intent behind the bottleneck? No, just where the part was purchased. Heat shield on the manifold or turbos? Yes, we're talking about doing that. Not right now. Matt, we're having an Oktoberfest. You put that dash in STI. Oh, right on. I like it. Why is it backwards? Why is what backwards, Paul? Help me out. I know what you mean. Why is it backwards? That was 6:17. That was 6 minutes ago. So I don't know. Why is it backwards? All right, so we got a main setup. Main setup, we go into the devices. Once you get into devices, then we can see if we got the Haltech CAN Sport stuff turned on. IO expander box A, which is what that is. We enable that here, and that'll tell it to start looking for that. It says main connectors. Aux CAN bus port. Well, this is on the aux port though. It's not on the main connector. What's the O2 sensors plugged into the one on the main connectors, right? This one here?
O2 sensors.
On this can here, right?
Yes.
Okay.
What did we plug into the one on the firewall? The dash?
The dash and the O2 sensors, right?
I don't.
Yeah, because they're
Yeah.
together because they get power from each other.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully I don't have to put the fucking expander box on there too, because it's not giving me an option for having two CAN systems on here. It's got the vehicle CAN system, and then the Haltech CAN system. I might have to put that on the other connector. That's less than ideal.
Yeah. Have to put it on what?
The other connector.
I thought you had to plug it right in there.
Yeah, well, that's also CAN. That's the CAN aux port. And I thought this thing ran both CAN buses simultaneously, but this is saying that it does not for the hull tech system, but only for the vehicle system too. But let's find out. Maybe it's just I don't understand the software. Maybe that's all it is. Okay, that's connected. Didn't feel that very firm click. Yeah, it's searching for the box. So if I change this to aux, it'll pick up the other one. And oh yeah, fuck you. Okay. Now come here, reboot the ECU again, flood the motor some more.
Is it giving a prime pulse every time you do that?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
So now that one will work. That one doesn't. Interesting. This one keeps working though. That's interesting. So it looks like we got to tie them all together. That's a bummer. I really wanted to avoid any issues with collisions and stuff, but they're not giving us a choice. Well, F you, Haltech. Boy, it is fucking hot here, dude. I'm not used to this this humidity. Yeah, the heat not a problem. Humidity is the killer. I mean, it was 116 degrees for like a week, and that was hot. It sucked, but it was really dry, and that was really nice. Like Arizona, it's a dry heat. You never experienced Arizona heat. You don't know what hot is. It just fucking. This says vehicle CAN port. Yeah. So this doesn't give us any of the enabled vehicle shit. Damn. Well, this is short cable here, so this won't reach to the side. So maybe we just put everything off of the aux then, because the other stuff should reach here. Do we have another Y though?
No.
Well, fuck my ass. Well, let me go back to what we're doing here, and I'll fix that later. All right, we need turbo speed sensors. Turbo speed sensors, here we go.
I'm surprised it doesn't make a lot
Oh,
of
it's
sense.
vehicle speed sensor. Oops. I'm like, wait, something looks wrong. Turbo speed here. There we go. My brain was seeing one thing and not. Enable. There we go. So number one, we go edit connection. So what did you put that one to?
What connector?
Yeah,
Which one are you asking me about?
the turbo speeds.
They are. Hang on, I have it written down here. Let's see. Driver side turbo is the DPI 1, and DPI 2 is the passenger turbo.
What's going on here? It's being weird. Oh, I got to reboot it again. That's right. Turn off. Back to devices. Put it back to aux CAN port for a minute or two. Turn this one to none. Hit apply. Hit OK. Reboot one more time. Okay, IO box is visible. Come back here, go to function, turbo speed. Click it 100 times so it responds. Edit connection. Well, what the fuck? says it's there, but I'm not getting the option to add connections. Well, I'm supposed to get the option to add connection. You click on this.
Huh?
What?
I was gonna say, all we have is that wideband controller and the dash plugged into it, right?
Right. But I'm supposed to be able to get the option to see the expansion, but it's not seeing it for some reason. It says it's seeing it, but my options here in my functions, they're not giving me. I have can. Oh, not sure. Level 1 sphere. Sure, I don't care about that. So the expander box is here. It shows it's online, so it sees the expander box. What's this mean? Oh, firmware, I'm sure. It's a brand new box. You need a fucking firmware date. So I should see it. And what's weird is I had it before. I had it set up in the past with all the stuff already selected on it. But now it's not seeing it. Here's the expander box right here. Expander box. AV1. Digital ones. Yeah, see, here they are. All right, so you said you used input what? Number 1 for which one?
DPI 1 was driver side turbo.
Okay, so like here it is. And it's not letting me click on it. And then I go over here. Data logging, functions, engine.
Now,
Functions. Yeah, this should open this up.
Because this shit is more intelligent.
And then edit connection
Sometimes.
should give me the expander box, and it's not.
But remember, I had, so the way they had the harness paired, it had a 12-volt supply paired with the signal ground and the signal lead for each of the pulse inputs for the turbo sensors.
Mm-hmm.
But I had to steal 5 volts off of.
Sure. Yeah, off of the thing. Yeah, but what I'm saying here is.
Would that matter? Can it sense that the 12 volts that are paired with it isn't hooked up?
No, what's doing is not even giving me the option of assigning an input to it.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it says it's here. Like you see over here. It says it's communicating the box is online.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you go to these things, you're supposed to be able to select what input you want. When you go to edit connection, then it's supposed to pop up here, but it's not. So I don't know why that is. All right, so I'm turning off this error again. Hit apply. Double check there's not an expander box I missed on here. And see IO expanders on here is an option. I shouldn't need to, but my phone's about to die. If I use it on the plane, I'll get my other phone, restart the stream, and we'll start the car. It makes noise. Yeah, no options for expander box. So I'm going to save this file. Sure, whatever. On my computer. I'm going to close and disconnect. I'm going to close the whole thing because fuck you. All right, and then if you'd kill the power for me. Oh, I'm gonna reopen the software again. Oh, yeah, I got blue lights on here too, saying it's working. Okay, and one more time, back on.
Fuel in there.
Do you want to start it?
Yeah.
Go for it. I have the power.
Huh?
I have the power.
Yeah. Looks like it's talking now.
Yeah. Go ahead, start again.